Hey everyone, AedanGraef here, and today on the Untrained Ear, we are going to be talking about American rapper, songwriter Billy Woods on his 10th solo album, Golliwog. So, going into this very ambitious project, some things you should know right away about Billy Woods. His father was a Marxist intellectual from Zimbabwe. His mother was an English lit professor from Jamaica. Golliwog is a stylized album that has a heavy focus on the juxtaposition between horror elements and the Zimbabwe War of Independence, Wood's upbringing, and commentary on the modern struggle for Black Americans in today's political and societal culture and its atmosphere. Particularly, there are a lot of lyrics that focus on cannibalism and zombies in the narrative. Usually, this is used to represent the African government hurting its citizens or Black Americans hurting one another. In this album, the lyricism is very dark and gritty. The rap flow is offbeat and quiet. Billy Woods is not worried at all about pandering to the generic made-for-radio aesthetic that a lot of modern R&B and pop culture is very focused upon. He is here to send a message, and send it potently he does. The samples off of this record can be very jarring at times. For instance, in Waterproof Mascara, there is a very enduring and persistent sample of a crying woman throughout the track that sits at the front of the mix and does not yield space. That being said, this is a very potent piece that I think has a lot to say. So let's get into it. So while the tracks are rather brief in this project, there is a lot to dig through and unfold. And truth be told, you could spend a lot of time analyzing most of these tracks from a variety of angles, as most of them are double entendred. So I am just going to do my best to peel apart a handful and hope that many of you will take the opportunity as you listen through to do the same and do a deep dig, because there's a lot to unfold here. We're going to look first at Black Christmas. This is a very vivid and visual track. This is a brutal view of growing up in poverty. As for the mix, it's very simple piano. There is a mix with drums in there. The rap is about a family that has been evicted. And the lyrics talk about how it's a very visual representation, how at first everybody is kind of hesitant, this being the neighbors, and assumedly Woods himself is very hesitant at first to go in, but eventually the house is scavenged and all of the belongings are assumedly plundered for need. Woods also often goes off in this track and many others about suspicion of everyone and everything, not even being able to trust the drugs that are being passed around in the neighborhood for fear that they're being sprayed down with chemicals and not being very safe. This and the many allusions to cannibalism across the record just goes to paint this very depressing portrait of what it's like just having to look over your shoulder all the time in these neighborhoods, and the fact that at the end of the day, even people that you consider to be friends, um, when your house is evicted and you've been cast away, they will leave your pictures on the floor as described in this track and trample over them because your family is not a part of theirs. So some very vivid imagery is dropped in this one. Waterproof Mascara is a very, very haunting piece. As I stated just before, there is the infamous crying woman in the mix that is just very disturbing, I think is the best way to put it, as it rides the front of the sample. There's also this very spooky ghost-like synth that's playing in the background. You get chaotic piano strokes that cut in here and there, and occasional drum lines as well. And then riding out along with the woman's crying, you get a very ominous bass line as well. This is an immensely dark track, as Billy does not hesitate to tackle themes of domestic abuse in his own home, ideation, and even tinges of talking about slavery. Just a very dark, heavy piece. It's very brief, but very cutting. Corinthians is one of the more musical pieces on this album. You get very dark synth waves with like an electro drum line. And the song is about the pain of the modern day and a yearning to strike back against the malefic powers from Billy's perspective. It talks about especially the modern political spectrum, and it's very, very, very modern political spectrum commentary. And just again, like kind of this idea of seeing enemies on all sides. It's a very isolating kind of view that you begin to paint by this point if you haven't already accumulated it from Billy's outlook. And as you get all of the horror entendres, you can kind of see how like living the life of a modern day, Black American, and there are even lines about this frequently dropped across the record. Life can really start to feel like a horror story, like a thriller. There's a line in this album that even the black kids are living a thriller, and I think that is a very powerful line that is dropped. I don't think it's in this track, so it's funny that I bring it up here. But all right, on Doll Full of Pins, one of my favorites on this album. This is a very jazzy R&B mix. You get awesome jazz sax throughout this track, and lyrically, kind of in contrast to what you get musically, the track is about being unable to trust anyone around you. It's another very isolated track about kind of facing your demons alone. And a lot of the words kind of focus on this idea that like everything in the song, like whether it be monster or man, is very money oriented, which I think is an awesome commentary that, money seems to be the motivator. Whether you are a monster or a man, it all comes down to the money. Okay, Black Zombie is another slammer. You get epic strings in the background. There's more sax worked into this piece for the instrumental sample. And the lyrics are about actually the post-colonial African governments and how abysmally little of an improvement that they were to the African populace. There are lines about how quite literally they were running their people into the ocean and not caring whether or not they survived the voyage overseas to escape the crumbling state of the continent. So yeah, that is pretty abysmal. And, it begs the question of how much awareness, goes about the common day, like American populace on the status of all of the, goings on, overseas and some of these foreign nations. And yeah, it was just a pretty disgusting track to listen to. Again, you get that like, that juxtaposition of zombies to the post-colonial African government, which I think is a great comparison. I think they may have even been alluded to that in actual jargon. You get the like Billy Woods like chanting "zombie, zombie, zombie" over the speech at the end, which I think is a strong like moment in the track as well. So quite liked this one. I have to talk about Dislocated. This track is really fascinating to me, actually musically as well as lyrically. The drums on this track were nothing shy of amazing. They were very jazzy and improvisational. I actually got tinges of a certain Black Country New Road track. Those who know. Um, and it's grounded by simple bass line, violin, and keyboard. And then what I really want to talk on is there's this one line in this track that I think speaks heavily to Billy Wood's mentality, and also may be likely what the heaviest criticism is that's leveraged against him and this album. The line is, I played facing the bassist, Miles Davis. So many probably know that at the end of his career, Miles Davis at live performances often faced away from the crowd, often towards the bassist. And a common interpretation of this is that this was a rejection of showmanship. So this is kind of a commentary that Billy Woods is making, that he's rejecting the showmanship of the rap scene and choosing instead to embrace the message, I think, than, the showmanship or the clout, so to speak, and all the chasing of that. Billy Woods is very clear that he's about the message more so than anything else, which I appreciate about him as an artist. I think he's got a lot of powerful things to say. The only criticism I have here for this album is really a half criticism. I think Billy Woods is very clearly sending a powerful message about the human condition, about society, and about multiple cultures. The samples and musical mixes used to provide background and supplement the rap flows are very carefully and pristinely selected, and everything on this piece is cooked up with immense care. Because of this, I think that there is an element of musicality across not all of, but some of the tracks that is sometimes sacrificed for the sake of getting the point across. It's a sacrifice that I believe is worth making for the sake of how poignant and impactful the message of this album is. I cannot stress that enough. But it is a sacrifice, nonetheless. And it is on that note that when I think about the baseless rating for this album, I would say that I have to give it a novel 9.